Hello and welcome to our first ever online community engagement event. My name is Rosie Cooke and I'm the Community Safety Projects Officer here at the Fenland Community Safety Partnership. Usually we like to host these events in community centres and supermarket foyers, but in this current climate with COVID, we thought it'd be the perfect opportunity to try something different. Today's event is on cybercrimes and scams, which has become a more prevalent issue over the last few years, especially over the last few months with the COVID lockdown. We've been asked on social media for local residents to submit their questions, but before we get into this, I'd like to introduce my two guests today. I'm joined today by Charlotte Homent, the lead for the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Against Scams Partnership.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And by Nigel Sutton, the Fraud and Cybersecurity Advisor for Cambridgeshire Police. Good morning, thank you. Thank you both for joining me today. We've received quite a few questions, so let's get straight to it.
Before we get started, I'd just like to chip in to say that, as an Against Scams partnership, I'm absolutely delighted that three partners have come together today to host this event. Fenland Community Safety Partnership, Cambridgeshire and Constabulary and Cambridgeshire County Council. It's really good to show how we work better together. So I'm absolutely thrilled that we're working together today.
Thank you, Charlotte. Charlotte, this one's for you. Terry Jordan asks, what are some examples of scams that are happening and what are the best methods to avoid being captured by a scammer?
Well, thank you for the question, Terry. Well, that's quite a tricky one because it's so broad, because unfortunately scammers have many different tools in their toolbox. Their repertoire is very vast, and as perceived experts, we will never be the experts because the scammers are always one step ahead. But certainly throughout the coronavirus pandemic, we have seen fraudsters, criminals who are taking advantage of people at this particularly vulnerable time, and especially those people who've been shielding and were told that they were extremely vulnerable to the virus and needed to stay at home. So we've seen all sorts of scams in relation to that. One example perhaps is what we call a good neighbour scam, where someone's knocking on the door, offering to help perhaps with shopping or collecting prescriptions and things like that, asking for money up front and never returning. One lady we actually heard from in East Cambridgeshire, so not too far from here, said that she had received a phone call by somebody saying, are you able to get your money from the post office at the moment? If not, we can send someone to collect your card and do it for you. So we're seeing these opportunists that are taking advantage of our most vulnerable. So I hope that's answered your question, Terry. I only could give a couple of examples today because of time, but if you would like to visit our Beware of Coronavirus Scams webpage, the link will be shared. And I also recommend visiting our Against Scams Partnership resource page. We make lots of resources available there on all sorts of different scams. And in particular, the Little Book of Big Scams has examples and advice about many different scams. So it's well worth visiting the website, having a look at that booklet.
Do you think there have been new scams that have emerged during the coronavirus pandemic that's been affecting our local communities?
Oh, absolutely, yes. The pandemic has basically presented an opportunity for criminals to take advantage of people and inventing lots of different ways to do that. I've already given a couple of examples of good neighbours type scams and somebody who was telephoned offering to help get their money from the post office. But another one that's very topical right now is the NHS test and trace scam. And this we know has been happening up and down the length and breadth of the country and indeed our county. And this involves a cold call to somebody by the caller who purports to be from the NHS test and trace service. And they claim to the resident that they have been in touch with somebody who has tested positive for coronavirus. And they are informed that they themselves therefore need to have a test to check whether they have the virus or carry the antibodies. And they say that they must pay a fee for that. And I've heard differing sums, but £50 right through to 500 in fact. And they're taking card details and payments for something that actually the genuine NHS test and trace service is absolutely completely free. So it's really important for our viewers today to be very wary of callers who are trying to charge for coronavirus testing. And there is an official number that all calls and texts will come in from the NHS Test and Trace Service. So do keep a lookout for that, although remember that numbers can be spoofed as well, so be wary.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Another question we've had in is we've received quite a number of complaints from residents who receive scam phone calls, especially around coronavirus. What can residents do to stop receiving these calls?
I think so. First of all, I think that's a common problem for many people. I know certainly whilst I've been working at home throughout the pandemic, my landline's been going and I've been having scam calls that perhaps I wouldn't have received if I was out at work. So we know that at the moment, people are more likely to be on the receiving end of scams because of the nature of us working at home or being at home more, especially obviously during lockdown when we were instructed strictly to stay at home as much as possible. So these scam calls, I mean, for most of us, it's just an absolute inconvenience. They're just a pest, aren't they? But for some people, they pose a real threat, not just to their financial well-being, but also to their emotional health. For instance, we know a person that's defrauded in their own home is actually 2.5 times more likely to die or go into care within a year of it happening. So it's not just about the money. But these scams, yeah, absolutely. For people who perhaps have cognitive impairments, who are going to struggle more with those challenging calls, or even perhaps issues that physical, getting up for the phone might pose a risk for slips, trips, falls, that kind of thing, perhaps if they've got blood pressure issues and so on. So we've got a 3-step approach to try and stop some of these scam calls. The first is we advise people to sign up for the telephone preference service, which is a free designed to stop UK sales and marketing calls. So it does have its limitations because it's just designed to stop those legitimate sales and marketing calls originating from the UK. So then the next step is to speak to your service provider, because many of the telephone service providers like BT, Sky, TalkTalk, PlusNet and so on, they actually have call blocking services that they can provide, usually free of charge as well. So it's really important to have that conversation with your service provider and see what they can do to try and prevent those calls getting through. And the final thing, if there's still an issue after following those 2 steps, then we recommend considering investing in a call blocking device. And it's very important to do your research carefully with those, because unfortunately scammers like to try and offer call blocking devices as well. So it's a devious thing, but yes, there are some brilliant devices out there, or handsets that already have the technology built in. And these things are proven to be very, very effective, blocking at least sort of calls that are nuisance or scam calls.
Thank you. And links to the information that you've provided will be made available. The next question has been submitted anonymously, and it's from a person who works with vulnerable people. And she asks, are there any training courses I can take to learn more about scam prevention and to sort of help support the people I'm working with?
Oh, absolutely. There's a national programme called Friends Against Scams, which is absolutely fantastic for people to build up a bit of knowledge and understanding and the skills to take a stand against scams. Now, there's many different versions or ways to undertake the learning. If as many of your listeners and watchers today will be using the internet. So the easiest thing for them will be to just use the online e-learning, which is 20-30 minutes long. And at the end of that, they become a friend against scams. They can download a certificate, and if they want, they can also request a PIN badge through our Against Scams partnership. So that's a really good national programme that gives a whole awareness of different types of scams, so not just cyber, but also postal, telephone, and doorstep scams as well. And crucially, it's also enables people to spot the signs of victims as well, because not only we want people to obviously look out for themselves, but we also really want people to look out for their neighbours. This is a community issue. This is a neighbourhood issue. Let's all look out for each other. So there's the online version, but there are also scam champions across the county who deliver sessions face-to-face or virtually at the moment. I know Nigel's been involved in one recently as part of the partnership to a U3A group. And then there's different versions for different groups. So there's also Businesses Against Scams. There's Young Friends Against Scams for, I think it's children over 8 years old or that sort of age range. And there's also an accessible version for people perhaps learning special educational needs and disabilities. So it really is a great package, and I've talked about it long enough now, haven't I?
that covers quite a wide age range of the Fenland residents that we're trying to support here, which is brilliant. Especially with the younger Fenland residents who might be young carers and supporting vulnerable people at home. So Charlotte, is this a training available for free?
Absolutely, it's completely free of charge. As I say, at the end of it, you get yourself a certificate. And nationally, there's an aim for 1 million friends by the end of this year. I think they're halfway at the moment. During lockdown, reached the milestone of 500,000. But in Cambridgeshire, we've got over 5,500, and we're really, really keen to get that number boosted. And if watchers today can go away and do that training, it really will help them to protect themselves and their neighbours and loved ones. Thank you, Charlotte.
Right, okay, if we could go now to you, Nigel. We have some questions around cybercrime. Daniel White has asked, how can we reduce cybercrime, and has it increased during lockdown as a result of more online shopping?
Okay, thank you. The answer, simple, yes, we can reduce cybercrime. In the same way we can help reduce crime in the physical world, there's a lot we can do whilst online. Having a good, strong password is so important. A strong, unique password for each online account, ideally. Now, I do appreciate people don't always like a password because they can't remember, but you need a strong, unique password, minimum on your email accounts and your social media. So let me give you an example of a good, strong password. We say nationally use 3 random words. So as I look around here, I'm going to say table, floor, printer. Table, floor, printer, put them all together, capitalise a few of the letters, add a couple of numbers, add a couple of special characters like a question mark, exclamation mark. You've just created a really strong password, and you put that onto your Facebook account, your email account. It's going to take a very, very good cyber criminal to work that out. Now, the common question I get, I'll never remember that. Well, do you know what? You could write it down. It's okay to write it down. I'd prefer it if you'd use what we call a password manager, but you can write it down. Just don't write on the piece of paper what that password relates to, and don't keep it near the computer or device for which it's relevant. Hide it somewhere away. So having a good, unique, strong password, ensure that your antivirus is installed and up to date. Make sure that your operating system is up to date. I know it can be a little bit of a chore when you get that notification on your mobile phone or on your Windows or Apple computer. An update is available. oh, a bit busy at the minute, I'll do it later. It's there for a very good reason. That is Google, Android, Microsoft, Apple, etc., saying to us all, we've identified a vulnerability, make sure you download and install. The updates are not just about adding functionality and making the operating system visually a little bit more pleasing. There's most likely embedded a security feature. So just make sure it's all up to date. Make sure you back up your data. There is nothing worse than if you are to click on a link that then puts malware onto your computer, you don't have a backup of all your photos, all your files, all your important data. So please make sure there's a backup either to the cloud or have a physical backup onto a USB drive, hard drive, it doesn't matter, but then just make sure it's unplugged and keep it away from the network. So God forbid, if malware is installed onto your device, you do actually have all your important data to come back. And finally, well, actually, there's numerous, I just don't have enough time. Don't click on a link within a text message, a WhatsApp, a Facebook Messenger, email. Clicking on the link, unless you can be absolutely 100% certain you know who the sender is, and if you do, okay, shortcuts, links, they're good, they're there, they're designed to save time, but criminals know. So what they'll do is they'll embed it into a communication of some description, you click on it, off you go to a website that you think is genuine, you input all your data, your email address, your password, and the cyber criminal has got it all, and you don't realize you've just given it away. I'm going to recommend, there is a lot more you can do that doesn't really cost any money. The Cyber Aware is a national campaign. If you go to www.ncsc, National Cyber Security Centre, and I'm going to forget the web address now, but I will put it, Rosie, I'll give it to you at the end of
the... Yeah, we'll provide those links.
A lot of information that you can see for yourself. Excellent.
We've had another question with people are concerned about how, if their details are safe when using applications like PayPal for money payments. Are there any particular things people can do to keep themselves safe, or is it more around that strong passwording and advice you've sort of previously given?
Well, first of all, online shopping, make sure you do use PayPal and make sure you're using the official website. Okay, if you get a communication that looks like an email, a text message that appears to have come from PayPal, don't click on the link where it offers to take you to their website. Make sure you go to the tried, tested, and trusted website or app for PayPal. Don't be tempted to take this shortcut. Yes, make sure you've got a good password and PIN code for PayPal. Equally, you can use a credit card for your online purchases rather than your debit card. If you use a credit card, you're spending somebody else's money. Whereas you use a debit card, you're spending your money, it comes straight out your account. So PayPal is good, credit card is good. And another little technical feature that you could consider is what we call a virtual private network, a VPN. It's an app available from Apple, Google, and what it does, it will encrypt all your data between your mobile phone, your laptop, your computer, and PayPal. So even if the criminals somehow can see the traffic between your device and PayPal, they won't see it because it's all encrypted. It's called a VPN. There are many out there, and it's a whole new subject. But hopefully, yes, use PayPal, use a credit card, use a good, strong password.
Excellent. Right, the next question we've received asks, my elderly grandmother has recently started to use the internet. What resources are available to keep her safe online?
Right, there's a few scams here I'm going to cover very quickly. Do not, please, allow yourself to take a telephone call in which the caller is pretending to be Microsoft, BT, Virgin, TalkTalk, and they will tell you that you've got a virus on your network, and they will want what we call remote access to your network. And they will ask you to download some software. A common one is called TeamViewer, and the innocent member of the public, local community, they end up installing TeamViewer onto their computer. The criminal who's made that telephone call then gets remote access to their computer, and they're able to look around the hard drive, all the files, and they can steal all the information, gain access. So if somebody takes a call within Cambridgeshire and it's purporting to be Microsoft, Apple, BT, you know what? The list is endless. Just don't allow people remote access to your computer. There's another one called a courier fraud. Please, Cambridgeshire Police, the Met Police, any policing will not ring you up and ask you to provide banking detail or ask you to allow them access to your computer. Just don't do it, please. And what they might say, that they've caught a criminal in London and they're in possession of what we think is your bank card. Can you just confirm details of that? And people are giving their bank card, their expiry date and the code on the back. Be very, very careful, please. So there's a very close connection between the telephone and the internet. Don't allow remote access, please. And then just make sure that they're following some of the conditions I gave, the good strong password, antivirus, backup data, make sure the software is up to date. But don't click on links and open an attachment unless you can be absolutely certain that the sender is genuine. And I would say to you, that's pretty hard. How do you know? Because I can tell you now that criminals can what we call spoof, conceal, hide their telephone number and the from address of their email. So what I don't want to do is make this sound that, oh, I'm not going to use the internet. No, the internet is wonderful, it's great. But having an awareness of how the criminals operate will help protect you online. And we will get used to being safe online and the measures that I'm talking about.
So Nigel, are there any email providers or web browsers that are safer than others to use?
Good question. I'm going to put my diplomatic hat on here, that Cambridgeshire Police have to be very careful about recommending various companies. However, what I can say is you don't have to use Google. Okay, there are other browsers, what we call privacy browsers. And I will mention one of them. Why not? I'm not saying it's the only one, there are others available.
Other browsers are available.
Make that one clear, there are others available.
Yeah,
Firefox is one that I use personally. Firefox has a very good reputation for just trying to protect your data. There's another one called Brave, B-R-A-V-E, but there are many, because what we all have to remember, every time you fire up your computer and you go online, you are being tracked by multiple companies, some of them legitimate. They're just watching what you do, what you're interested in. But amongst it are the bad guys, the cyber criminals that get an idea of what you're interested in. And if you're looking for, say, cheap holidays, potentially, you could then find that you're receiving emails offering cheap holidays. Click on the link below to check out our bargain holidays. So a privacy browser Google it. There are plenty out there, but I use Firefox. I also use Brave. I also use Safari, only because I've got an Apple computer. Remember, there's a lot of reputation online here. So Safari, make a good browser. Google Chrome, make a good browser. It's all about what you're putting out online, data-wise, your email address, your password.
Thank you, Nigel. Could you explain to our viewers what's a phishing scam?
Yeah, absolutely. It is as simple as, if I'm the bad guy and I've stolen 1,000 email addresses, or I've bought them online, because you can, I create a template, and the template, there's a common one, Netflix, HMRC, TV licensing, that is a massive one. I create one template on my little laptop, and then I send that template to 1,000 email addresses. There's your phishing. I am just literally transmitting, and I just wait. I sit back like the fisherman on the riverside, waiting for somebody to receive the email, the text message, the WhatsApp, the Messenger, and click on the link. There's my bite. They bite, off they go to my criminally managed website. That is phishing. Be very careful, everyone, please. Phishing, there's no doubt, is the global problem of how criminals are getting into our online lives. Don't click on that link or open that attachment. So phishing is as simple as the criminal sending thousands of communications out, just hoping somebody nibbles and clicks on that link or opens the attachment. Thank you.
Nigel, can you give us some information around 2FA security, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication is a great way of protecting your online accounts, because if a cyber criminal guesses your password, which hopefully, as you now know, if you've got a good, strong, unique password per online account, shouldn't be a problem. But if your password is compromised by the cyber criminal and they get or try to get into your online account, say for example, Facebook, and you have enabled on Facebook two-factor or 2FA authentication. This is where Facebook, because you've given them your mobile number, Facebook will look at what we call the IP address. The IP address is like the house name, number, and postcode of the internet. Facebook will look and go, well, that's strange. You're trying to access your account from geographically somewhere completely on another continent. Is that really you? So because you set up two-factor authentication, 2FA, they will go, just to make sure it's you, I'm sending you a 6-digit code to your mobile phone. And that's exactly what they do. The genuine person will have the mobile phone in their possession. They'll read the code, they'll put it into the website, and Facebook and lots of other established companies will go, do you know what? Not only have you got the password correct, but we've sent you a code to your mobile phone. You've put that in. I think you're the right person. So two-factor authentication. Everyone, please, if it's available on your online account, like I say, most email accounts, social media, and all the big websites do have that security feature. So please enable it. Two-factor authentication.
Thank you, Nigel. And last but not least, what support is available to local businesses to protect the websites that they use from cyber attacks?
Looking after businesses really is an important part. I've got everyone in Cambridgeshire, all community areas, but businesses in particular. There is a lot they can do. And all I ask is that Fenland businesses, you may well have your own IT department, in-house or a third-party managed service provider. There is room for me to fit in between the senior directors, the IT provider, and Cambridgeshire Police. We can all work together to make sure that your businesses are safe. I personally can visit the business. We have a national scheme called Cyber Essentials. This is a way that you can accredit your business and make sure that you've got the minimum standards of cyber security. If you've got good security on your network in your business, the mainstream cyber criminality that's occurring globally, they will struggle. And unless you've got a product or service that they really, really want, they'll probably just divert their attention and go, you're too difficult. You've clearly got a good standard of cyber security. We'll go elsewhere. In the same way that the burglar walking down the street, if they can see that a property has got the alarm, the windows are shut, the lights are on, they're overlooked, cyber criminals, they don't want to waste a lot of their time trying to get in. So Cyber Essentials, we offer as a conduit. We also offer a lot of material that's provided by the National Cyber Security Centre in London. They are charged, they're a government department. They look after the county council, the Fenland district council, indirectly I say, all government websites. They are the flagship government defence of the UK, but they do provide documentation that I can sit with the local business. We can go through the booklet and we can say, have you got this? Check. Have you got this? No. Why not? Shall we talk to your IT provider? Yes, let's do that. We can conduct a review of your cyber security. The other thing that is really important for Fenland businesses, invite me in to talk to your staff. Because if you're aware of all the scams and all the fraud, the invoice fraud, the mandate fraud, the CEO fraud, all these kind of telephone and internet related scams that are looking to disrupt a business local to Fenland, let's raise the awareness of the staff in the business. Give me half an hour to engage, or let me send you a little bit of material and you brief your staff. Because if your staff have a good awareness of what the criminals are doing to try and breach the network, ringing up, can I have a remote access? This is Barclays Bank, this is your local bank, whoever, whatever bank. Raising the awareness of staff is really important. So I will just mention for local businesses as well, ransomware, are you geared up? Make sure you've got a backup of all your customer and business data, either to the cloud or to a physical drive. And if you don't know, ask your IT provider. Have we got a backup? Does it work? Because ransomware does impact on businesses in Cambridgeshire. I know that for a fact because I do get involved trying to assist them. So businesses, you can contact me. There is an email that will be available at the end of the call. Okay,
so just to say, if a resident or a local business has become a victim of either a scam or cybercrime, what should they do?
Shall I take this one?
Yeah. And then I'll add to it when...
Yeah, thanks, Nigel, and thanks, Rosie. So nationally, I think Nigel may have already mentioned Action Fraud, or did he? I can't remember. Action Fraud, that's the National Reporting Centre for Scams and Fraud. So it's operated by City of London Police, I believe, but it's that National Centre for Reporting Scams and Fraud. So that's always recommended to people. However, in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, our partnership, our Against Scams partnership, has identified other reporting pathways, which will just mean that you're more likely to get some extra support with the issue. So you might receive an offer to help stop the telephone calls, or some literature to be sent to your home address, that kind of thing. So we are recommending different pathways depending on the different type of scam, and those pathways can be seen in our infographic, which you'll be able to see at the link here.
Hey, thank you, Charlotte. Nigel, did you have something to add?
Yeah, please. Just add that nationally, there is a lot going on to help protect businesses within the UK. For example, if any Fenland business falls victim to a cyber attack that's live and ongoing, and it might be what I've previously mentioned, ransomware, in which your files are encrypted, you're unable to use your business network. The Action Fraud, in addition to their reporting crime, they also operate what we call a 24/7 live business attack helpline, where a Fenland business, if there's nothing they can do, their network has got a screen that's showing all your files have been encrypted. In order to release the data, you now owe us £10,000. And we want Bitcoin paying to this wallet. Action Fraud, 24/7 helpline. But again, contact me. There is a lot more than what I've got time to mention, and it's all free for businesses.
Excellent. Well, that's a whole lot of information out there for residents and businesses, but people just need to know how to access that, and that information will be made available. Okay, I believe that just about wraps it up for today's event. Charlotte and Nigel, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us. And I would just like to add a little invitation to all the listeners today, all the viewers. Our Against Scams Partnership are inviting keen individuals, community groups, businesses, housing associations, anybody in their community to join us as a supporter. It costs absolutely nothing, and we send out regular communications about the latest scams, or perhaps some funding opportunities or training opportunities, but it's all enabling you to raise awareness within your community or in your workplace. So we invite you to become a supporter. We make lots of resources available in the form of posters, leaflets, door stickers to deter cold callers. So there's plenty there. We just want you to get involved. So we hope to hear from you soon.
Excellent. And so thank you to Nigel. You provided a wealth of information, and there'll be links to further support from your team on the website and during this presentation. And thank you as well to everyone who submitted their questions online and have tuned in today. If you'd like to see more of what we do here at the Fenland Community Safety Partnership, then you can follow us on Twitter at Fenland CSP. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube to see future events. Until then, take care, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.